To put this in perspective, the EU rejected the last offer of 70,000 tonnes when we had no Brexit. They now come along and make an increased offer this time round. It's putting us in a very, very difficult, precarious situation. I think we have a good fight up on it. I think there's a good campaign that we have up and going on it, both at national level at home. We have strong support from our Taoiseach Líor Varadkar. We have full support from Minister Creed. We're delighted to see President Macron coming onto the pitch now from a French perspective. We're working very closely with our French colleagues here in the livestock farmers in France, in Brussels, and we have some great support from some MEPs on the issue as well. So whilst it's moving very fast, it's moving too fast, but trade deals are hard to do. So we've got to utilise every aspect now of the European institutions, from the Council of Ministers to the heads of states to the European Parliament, to try and stall this. We certainly need to try and stall this deal.
You've been to Brazil and were involved in exposing the standards there. And like, can we depend on standards to save us? You know what your members have to do in terms of complying with standards, whether it be environmental standards, traceability standards, animal welfare standards, animal remedy standards even. Like, where do standards fit into this, or where does that part of the jigsaw come together? Well,
two things I'd say. The first thing I'd say is that I think just on the trade deals in general first, I would say very clearly, and I think this will emerge politically, the EU and the EU Commission are running ahead of member states on trade deals. And I think it's a view, but I think that could backfire on European politicians and the European political setup. So they need to slow this down. As Jim has said, they're racing off now to New Zealand and Argentina, starting the next trade deal. It's clear, certainly from an Irish perspective, a French perspective, and President Macron is new onto the pitch here now, but he's been very strong on this. I think, you know, the people have to speak on this, and the EU Commission are running ahead of the member states in terms of trying to drive through trade deals, which could be very, very negative for the overall European project. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing, in relation to standards, the best example or the best issue on standards is that the last FVO report, the Food and Veterinary Office report, carried out just a couple of months ago by the EU Commission, their own people, it was crystal clear, Justin. It said that Europe cannot rely on the Brazilian authorities to certify the product coming into Europe. It couldn't be any clearer. And here, on the one hand, the veterinary experts on Europe are saying this: we can't rely on the standards that are there in Brazil, and we can't rely on the Brazilian authorities to certify those standards. And on the other hand, we continue to accept the imports, and we continue to hear the arguments being made that, well, the Brazilians and others will come up to the European standards. That's a misnomer. It's not going to happen, and we know, Justin, from our work in Brazil back in 2006 and 2007, that's not going to happen easily. They're so far removed and so far apart from the European standards of traceability, tagging, veterinary controls on the use of products, withdrawal periods, the use of hormones, the use of angel dust like ractopamine and various other beta agonists. It's simply not going to happen in Brazil, and you know, that's a car crash waiting to happen in terms of the European project and the whole beef setup in Europe.